Welcome to the Quantum Series. This is Manal Zainuddin, and I share here with you conscious learning in being, an aspect of my approach in education. And as I always say, education is much beyond schooling and schoolwork. Education is never separate from us, conscious beings. In one of the previous episodes, we talked about fluid waves, also referred to as fields, that bundle into energy. At those atomic and subatomic levels, this energy is received as separate packets called quanta, resembling spikes that we see when monitoring prices, rates, and other similar increase and fall observations. These particles, also called photons, that still keep their particle properties such as size and position, move in a wave-like manner. One of the fundamental experiments done at quantum level is the Double-slit Experiment, which was conducted in the early 19th century by Thomas Young, a British scientist who studied light and wanted to prove that light is a wave. His experiment contradicted Isaac Newton's theory of light. Young's experiment showed that when light passes through two slits, it spreads out from each slit, what we also know as diffraction. The light waves coming from slits form overlapping light waves, causing what we call interference. In this experiment, it's particularly referred to as interference pattern or series of bright and dark fringes that either are identical and work together or opposite and cancel out. The same experiment was later done with atoms to understand how atoms manage to go into those two slits, creating that type of interference. A detector was used, and to the scientists' surprise, did not witness any waves or interference patterns. The experiments were tried in their two versions, and the results were strikingly the same. That led to the realization that when detected or observed, the result changed. When observed, they behaved like particles. When not observed, they behaved like waves. This is one of the weirdest aspects of quantum mechanics. It cannot be explained by logic only. This is very interesting in many ways. This change in behavior when observed is known as the observer effect. And here, before delving deep into this opulent topic, I have to point out that just like it is in its own term, double-slit or two-slits experiment, this topic can be explored through two approaches: when we are being observed and when we are observing ourselves. This may seem to be complicated, but life is complicated and can be perplexing. The observer's effect directly links to us as humans, first through our attention, what we apply attention to. This is the power of observing, noticing, and focusing. Whatever catches our attention may be acted upon positively or negatively. This is another point to discuss later. But when we ask ourselves, what are we focusing on? What are we giving attention to? Just like at the quantum level, when the detectors is on and the capacity is high, the interference weakened. When the capacity of observation is reduced, the interference increased, which means scientists can control the degree of influence on the behavior of the electrons. So it is the capacity of us paying attention to certain details or circumstances of our lives that influence the details or circumstances. When we overthink about certain situations, things get complicated, and that's when we decide to let go of them, when they are being resolved or managed. Sometimes paying attention or observing makes processes complicated. That's why letting go of the how and focusing on the now is the best way to solve complicated situations. How many of us are not currently going through tough situations? Most of us are. The observer's effect also directly links to us as humans through our attitudes. Attitude is defined as a feeling or opinion about something or someone or a way of behaving that is caused by this. It is a person's mindset. It's related to judgments as well. Having positive or neutral attitudes is good, but having negative attitudes puts us in undesirable situations in the present and the future, and even more, creates causal sequences that affect our lives and beyond. Now, whether these attitudes are known to us or explicit or unknown to us or implicit, they have an effect. When we are observing something, what opinion do we form? Do we make judgments? Most of us do. We even make biased statements and jump into conclusions. So a question emerges: can we become unbiased observers? The observer's effect also directly links us to us as humans through our perspective, our understanding of our lives. When studying the double-slit experiment, the first projection we usually get is that the atoms will go through the two slits and land on the other sheet, creating a pattern similar to the two individual slits that they had passed through. A question here emerges: is everything in our lives based on logic? Is it measured by reasoning? What about the feeling of joy that we get when there is no specific joyful incident? Why do we sometimes feel sad when there is nothing wrong happening in our lives at that exact moment? Why do we feel we have to take a certain action that our mind tells us not to do? Is that also how it feels like when we have what we call gut feeling, intuition, inner intelligence? Do we have calculated answers for everything in our lives? Well, I don't think so. And this is the bittersweet mystery of our lives. Erwin Schrödinger, the Austrian-Irish physicist who developed Schrödinger equation, the equation that governs the wave function of a quantum mechanical system, states, quote, "The task is not so much to see what no one has yet seen, but to think what nobody has yet thought, about which everybody sees." End quote. Those were only a few points that we can relate to the double-slit experiment. Stay tuned for next time. We will share more. Please share and like this content if it gives you value so that it reaches more educators, parents, and like-minded people. And remember, knowledge is as vast as the world. Awareness is as vast as the cosmos. And this is what we deserve. We deserve no less, because we are more.